Welcome to Easy English by Edison, and today we are going to do Hornbill, the sixth lesson, the Browning version by Terence, Rattigan. Yes? Okay, Santosh will ask me the question. Sir, what is this play about?
What is this play about?
Okay, and what are the important characters?
What are the
Well, this play is about, teenage students' opinion about teachers. You all are
Yes, sir.
teenage students. You have your opinion about teachers. Sometimes you like some young teachers,
Yes.
some having brilliant and new ideas. Sometimes you criticize some young teachers.
Yes.
Sometimes you dislike too much of discipline or a teacher who is a disciplinarian. In your opinion, sometimes those who are moderate in discipline are admired by you. Am I right?
Yes.
So teenage students have their own opinion about young teachers as well as old teachers. I mean to say those teachers who are governed by old and traditional ideas. They believe in strict discipline and no compromise. Whereas there are teachers, young teachers, who believe in moderate discipline and interaction with children, friendly behavior. Am I right? So you will find here there are two types of teacher here. Mr. Crocker Harris is such a person who is a strict disciplinarian. He is an example of traditional or conventional teachers who do not compromise with the discipline, who are very strict, and they often scare the children by virtue of their strict discipline. Though they are good for them also, because they always earn respect from the students.
Yes.
They always earn respect because their discipline and their control over the children make them respectful. On the other hand, there is another there is another teacher who is young, science teacher, Mr. Frank. He is a moderate teacher. He is not very strict in discipline, and he believes in friendly behavior of the students. So there are two contrasting features of this play. One is that at one hand, Mr. Crocker Harris is a very strict disciplinarian who doesn't compromise with his principle and believes that only discipline can govern the children. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Who even asks the students to do some extra work for being absent one day. Even on the last day of the session, he asked Taplow, a 16-year-old boy, to do some extra work because he remained absent for one day due to sickness. For that reason, he was given the punishment, and the punishment by that, he was asked to do some extra work on the last day of the session, before the announcement of the result. And Mr. Crocker Harris believes that results should not be announced beforehand. It should be announced only on the day of result. It should not be disclosed. Whereas Mr. Frank is a moderate behavior person. He is very friendly and he is jealous of Mr. Crocker Harris, respect and command over children. Who is envious and jealous of Crocker Harris command and respect? Mr. Frank. And he believes in criticism of old and conventional teacher. So he allows Taplow to criticize his old teacher, Mr. Crocker Harris, and he gets a chance also. While while Taplow was waiting for his teacher Crocker Harris, who has asked him to come and do some extra work on the last day of the session, he got a chance. Mr. Frank got a chance. He saw him sitting there. He asked, "What makes you stand here and wait?" He told that he has been asked by his teacher Crocker Harris to come and do some extra work on the last day of the session simply because he has been absent for one day due to sickness. And he got a chance. Mr. Frank got a chance. Now he started encouraging, Taplow. He said, "This is not fair. On the last day of the session, why should you worry?" And then he said, "Go and play golf. It's better. He will not come in time. He's already late." But Taplow is a very strict, child. He doesn't believe in any, moderate thinking. He said that no, he is afraid of Mr. Crocker Harris. He will not go to play golf because by the time if he comes, he will question him. So while he is waiting for that, he is criticizing him. Who? Taplow is criticizing Crocker Harris. He is saying that he is not a human being. He is inhuman because he doesn't compromise with his principle. He is very strict. He believes only in principle. Though he has a great respect. Taplow has a great respect for Mr. Crocker Harris. Am I right? Yet he sometimes criticizes, and that benefit of doubt is being given to Mr. Frank. Mr. Frank, who is little bit jealous of Crocker Harris, takes advantage of Taplo's innocence and has asked him to criticize his old teacher. Am I right? Yes. By the time he is waiting for that, the wife of Crocker Harris, Billy. What is her name? What is her name? Millie Crocker Harris. What is her name? Tell me. So Mrs. Millie Crocker Harris arrives, and she asked this child to go to the chemist and get the prescription filled in by the chemist. So she hands over a prescription and asks him to go to the chemist. But at the same time, he expresses his anxieties that what would happen if Mr. Crocker Harris arrived. She said that, well, don't worry, I will take all the blame on my own hand. Yes, I will ask my husband that I have sent you. And then she sends Taplo to the chemist's shop. But then there are three things that happens. Ask, what is that?
What is that?
One thing is that there is always a contrast between modern thinking of the teacher and the traditional thinking of the teacher. Am I right? Who is a modern, teacher? Mr. Frank. Who is a conventional teacher? Who is a strict disciplinarian? Mr. Crocker Harris. And who is little moderate in thought and ideas? So there is a class, but the teenage students prefer moderate disciplinarian, like Mr. Frank. Therefore, there is always a scope of criticism for a teacher like Mr. Crocker Harris. Am I right? On the contrary, there is a great respect for Crocker Harris. Ask why, sir?
Why, sir?
Because of his command of the student. Because of his behavior and command, he has earned lot of respect. And this is the cause of jealousy in the eyes of Mr. Frank. Am I right? Now you ask me, sir, what are the main points?
Sir, what are the main points?
The main points of this play are Taplo, who is waiting for his teacher, Mr. Crocker Harris, who has not yet arrived and has been, waiting for his teacher. By the time, Taplo informs Mr. Frank that as he is here, he is waiting for his teacher, Mr. Crocker Harris. And Mr. Frank gets a chance. He asks, why have you come on the last day of the session? Taplo tells Mr. Crocker Harris, Mr. Frank, that his teacher, Mr. Crocker Harris, has given him extra work on the last day of the session, and he has been waiting for him. And as he has missed one day of his session, he has been asked to do some extra work. Why has he been asked to come? Taplo has been asked to come because he has missed one day of the session. So on the last day of the session, Taplo has been asked to come and do some extra work. Just because he had missed one day. Just because he had missed due to sickness. Now, third point. According to Taplo, Mr. Crocker Harris is very strict and hardly a human being. What is the opinion of Taplo about Mr. Crocker Harris? That he is a very strict disciplinarian. Say like, Mr. Crocker Harris is a strict disciplinarian and is hardly a human being. Hardly a human being. What a comment. Mr. Frank pretends to be friendly with this child, Taplo, and he encourages him to criticize Mr. Crocker Harris because he is jealous of Crocker Harris. Mr. Frank points out that Mr. Crocker Harris is late now and he may not be able to come within 10-20 minutes. So he asks Taplo to go and play golf. What? Do you think Taplo will go and play golf? No, never. Say that. No, never. Because he is always scared of Mr. Crocker Harris. Taplo feels shocked at this suggestion that another teacher, Mr. Frank, is criticizing and allowing me to go and play golf. But he doesn't leave the play. Mr. Frank envies Mr. Crocker Harris. Envy means being jealous. What is the meaning of envy?
Jealous.
Say like that. Mr. Frank envies Mr. Crocker Harris for the effect and command that he has earned among the students. Now, Taplo tells Mr. Frank that Mr. Crocker Harris is not a sadist. Sadist means one who is always a negative thinker. He is not a negative thinker. He is tough and possesses feeling of, strictness. Millie Crocker enters the room while Kaplan is narrating the incident of cracking joke in the class. One day while the class was going on, Crocker Harris cracked joke which was not understood by anybody. It was cracked in the language Latin. Which language?
Latin.
Only one child smiled. That was Kaplan. Asked, was he able to understand what he said? No. He only smiled because he knew that if he will not smile on his joke, he will be annoyed. He will be, but nobody understood what he said. His joke was not understood by anybody. Not understood by anybody. Despite that fact, Kaplan smiled just to make him happy. And then what happened? Ask her what happened then. Mrs. Crocker Harris enters the room and she asks Kaplan to go and bring some medicine and get the prescription filled by the chemist. Meanwhile, Kaplan accepts the proposal of Mrs. Crocker Harris only on the reason that she will take all the blame on her own hand. On her own, she will explain the reason why she had sent him to the chemist. And that is how the play comes to conclude. So what do we find in this play? Tell me, what does this play suggest? Two contrasting opinion of a student, teenage student, about two types of teacher. Some of the students, teenage students, prefer to, admire teachers who are moderate in behavior and discipline. And they are friendly to their students. Am I right? While on the other hand, those teachers who are very strict in discipline are often scared by the student, and they are often criticized by the teenage students. Am I right? So say like that. There are two contrasting features of two types of teachers. The modern one and the conventional one. Second important point is that students like Kaplan, who is always respectful to his teacher. Am I right? He is always scared because of Mr. Crocker Harris' strict discipline.
Yes, sir.
Is ready to do the work even on the last day of the session. This suggests the command of the teacher. That how a teacher can command the students that he is ready to do extra work even on the last day of the session. This is a good example of discipline. Am I right? And command of a teacher. Thank you very much. Thanks.